I am completing the game Pokemon Yellow, beating it each week with one new Pokemon from the 151 Pokemon available in the Pokedex. And today we are taking a look at Clefairy. This is an interesting one for a couple different reasons. The first one being that there's been a lot of rumors that Clefairy was initially supposed to be the mascot of Pokemon, that it was initially going to be the companion to Ash Ketchum, which would have been a very, very different series in my opinion. If anything else, mostly just because of the fact that Clefairy really does have an impressive move pool here on the right-hand side of the screen, and that is really going to take us pretty far in today's episode. This is also from a time period in which we did not yet have the fairy typing, so Clefairy is still a normal type, meaning that only fighting type moves are the only thing that is super effective against us, but also that any of the normal type moves will not be super effective against anything. So therefore we will have to find different ways and different moves in order to defeat our enemies. And as you can see on the right hand side, unlike some of the more recent Pokemon, we have a lot of options at our disposal, and I'm really excited about this. It is one of those things where I've talked previously in other episodes about how I don't really want to necessarily repeat the same thing over and over again, but after the last couple of weeks with the Nidorans, both female and male, even though one went a little bit better than the other, they were both very, very frustrating, and so I kind of feel like I earned this. So I'm going to be using a set that I know for sure is going to work. There's going to be a couple interesting moments where I'll kind of think about whether or not I should have abandoned a move that early. You know, if I could have held off just a little bit more for some of these badges. But you know what? That's enough of that little bit for now. I don't want to foreshadow too many things. We'll come back to all of that when the time is right. For now, let's take a look at Clefairy. And in a way, we're going to sort of live vicariously and have our own little Pokemon Pink, which I believe was, I guess, either a rumor to be coming out along with Pokemon Yellow, or perhaps when they thought that this would be the original mascot, that this would then be the game that came out after Red and Blue. Again, because they're all rumors, there's a little bit of stuff that kind of gets a little confusing to me about sort of timeline stuff, just because I don't think everyone really seems to agree with it. But that's okay. At the end of the day, we're going to kind of experience it anyway. I actually really like Clefairy and Clefable as well. So let's start taking a look at what we can do with this little one right here. So right off the bat, let's take a look at those moves on the right-hand side of the screen. We started off with Pound and Growl, and eventually pretty soon we're going to learn Sing, which is a move that I feel like I actually probably could have used a little bit more in this video. I basically don't use it at all. Just for whatever reason, in my personal kind of preference, if I'm going to use a sleep-inducing move, I'm always going to use Hypnosis. I can't really explain it, just in my head, Sing doesn't work. I actually don't know if there's any truth to that. It's just in my head, Sing is just so inconsistent for me, personally. Maybe a lot of that does come down to just the fact that it's 55% accuracy, and I feel like there's a lot of like, oh, this person is not affected when they easily could have been. So either way, Sleep is pretty good for other Pokemon, but I actually don't think that Clefairy also really needs it, I'll be honest. Clefairy doesn't struggle through many of the situations in this game, which is pretty great, actually. So after Sing, we get access to a move called Double Slap at level 18. And again, this is one of those things where perhaps I took too long here in the beginning of the video to get Clefairy started. I really thought in my head that Double Slap was going to be the only way to victory against Brock. At the end of the day, I probably could have done the fight with Brock at level 16. In fact, I'm sure there's people who have done it at that level or lower, but that's just sort of where I felt the most comfortable with a normal type Pokemon. Now, initially, I was thinking that it would be easier if he had the Vaporeon team, but I spammed Pound earlier and won in the lab, so that kind of made me feel like the Flareon team was the worst team that I could possibly go up against. So I did pull back into Viridian, went and fought the rival a second time, just to make sure that we got that victory so that we will have the Jolteon team to go up against. I really won't have anything that's great for Jolteon himself, but at the very least, the rest of the team that he will have in order to accommodate Jolteon. Volteon. What is that? I've never done that in my life. I'll leave that in. That's a fun little flub, I guess. I hope it's fun for me, I guess, but maybe not for you. Anyway, Jolteon, I think, is going to be the second easiest, at least for Clefairy. Now, with the rest of the moves, again, we've got Minimize, which is currently against my rule set of not using evasion-based moves. Metronome, super inconsistent, not a great move, not a very fast move, so we're getting rid of that. Light Screen at 48. Okay, I mean, I could see some application for it, not going to be using it. Defense Curl, weirdly enough, is going to be a move that we're going to have. And that is something that will get explained later because we don't use it a lot. But when we do use it, it is for very crucial moments and for very crucial fights where I don't think I would have the stats that I need without that boost. Because there's a very fun thing that happens with boosts in this game. And we'll get to that again when it comes time. But for now, let's keep looking through these moves real quick just because we're about to go to Brock in a little bit because there'll be a cut. But there's Mega Punch, which is cool. Mega Kick, a little less accurate, does more damage though. Toxic, no one ever uses it, or at least I never use it rather. Body Slam, great, definitely going to use it. Takedown, Double Edge, kind of the same thing. One of them is a little bit more inaccurate. Don't know really why you would take one over the other. Bubble Beam, great. Water Gun, a good start, but Bubble Beam is obviously better. Ice Beam, this is one that I'm so excited to have. I'm going to be honest, man, I really think that Ice Beam is one of my favorite moves in all of Pokemon. Like, since Gen 1, I have loved the move Ice Beam. And I'm not even really like an ice guy, you know what I mean? I'm very rarely running a team that has a ice Pokemon. I probably just have something on my team that can learn Ice Beam. I'm definitely, if I had to choose like a single type, I would probably definitely be like a fire type, maybe ground. But I think that for sure, fire is my main kind of steez within the Pokemon realm. Ice, not really my thing. I don't really do cold, to be honest with you, which is crazy because most of my life I've lived in colder states. I used to live in New Orleans for a little bit, really kind of missed that, but that's not relevant to any of this, sorry. Anyway, Blizzard is then the next move, which we have used quite a bit recently, and while it is stronger, it's a little bit more inconsistent and does not have the amount of PP that will really kind of carry us through without having to constantly use items. So I do think that Ice Beam is going to be the way for us today, just because it's at our disposal and it's not even that far off in power, right? Then we have some of the only fighting moves in the game, and they're all not great. Submission, Counter, Seismic Toss. Seismic Toss, however, will actually be kind of relevant today. Then you've got Rage, bad move. Solar Beam, cool, but takes too long. Thunderbolt, great. Thunder, great, but misses a lot. Psychic, love it. Teleport, okay. Mimic, not going to use that today. We don't need it. It's not necessary. Double Team, Reflect, Bide, Metronome, obviously all those not great. Don't want to use them. Fire Blast is cool, not relevant, not useful necessarily today. Skull Bash, Rest, etc., etc. Rest could actually be pretty great for some of these fights. I probably could have gotten through the game a little bit faster if I just used Rest, but we won't. Now I know what you're thinking. You're looking at the time, you're looking at the level on Clefairy, and you're going, Colin, that is 4 levels under 18. What is happening here? Right. Well, this is where I make my very first mistake of the game. And it's something that when I do this one again, because I actually do want to do it again, I think I can do a better time with it. And also, again, it was just kind of fun. But I made a mistake here, which is that I was going to do blackout training with Clefairy against this trainer just because of the fact that it has a good experience blast, I guess, or pool. I don't know how else to word that really. And it's just going to be faster than going back into the Viridian Forest and fighting. There's 2 problems here. One, because Clefairy is a fast type, it does mean that it does take less experience points to level up. However, my defense is already pretty good. And the only move that I can use in order to not fight Sandshrew is Growl. which lowers his attack, which then means that his lower attack is going against my pretty good defense. It's going to take Sandshrew forever to take me out. So it's actually going to be pretty slow. And because I've already caught my Fly HM user, Pidgey, it means that I also have another Pokemon that I can't send into battle. And I forgot to put it in the PC in order to do the Blackout training. Once I realized how time consuming this was going to be, even if I were to drop off the Pidgey, I realized this was not the time. If I had a move like Tail Whip or something like that, that would have been an ideal move set in order to use Sandshrew to my benefit. But I can't really gaslight him if I've lowered his attack 6 stages and I'm just waiting for the weakest scratch attack in the world to take me out. So it is back to running around in the forest, getting as many experience points as I possibly can. And that is another reason why, again, we already have one reset just because I realized I wasn't really making the right move. It was going to take too long. I reset, finished it out, and now we're doing this. And as much as I'm sure you all would love to hear me yap over me fighting a bunch of bugs and some birds, I think that we can skip a few levels and cut directly to the gym. And so here we are. Look at that. Now we're going up against the trainer for real this time. There's no need to black out against this one. This time we can just sort of pound our way through the team, and Bob's your uncle. It's now on to Brock. And to some extent, maybe the junior trainer was right. Maybe I was a little bit of light years away from being ready for Brock. And that's because I kind of had a vague idea of what I wanted to do. And I abandoned it and rethought it about 2 or 3 different times in this battle. One of the big things was that I was thinking, okay, maybe I can use Sing 5 times on each of them so that he runs out of full heals. And then I can put them both to sleep so that I don't take as much damage. The other issue was that even from the get-go, Geodude was doing a little bit more damage than I really would have liked him to be doing, even with some growls happening. So eventually I just sort of had to start hitting Pound and kind of getting in there. Because, of course, another big issue with having a team that you're going up against that is rock ground type, they resist your normal type moves. So as you can see, Pound and Double Slap have been cut in half in terms of their effectiveness. So Pound is not really doing that much. I kind of feel like we did need those levels just so we could have some extra attack power behind the power of the attack. Kind of a convoluted statement, I know, but either way, I was ready in case he used Bide. I was really ready to go with this one, but in the beginning, he was mostly just on the attack, and perhaps it's because he was a little frightened. Perhaps that with the normal types, it's kind of like, well, why waste it? Who knows what his real thinking is here, but for a minute there, it was looking a little rough and tumble. I actually was not 100% positive that I was going to make it through this fight. But luckily, because he does use Bide, I can then use Sleep, and therefore I can use Pound twice in order to get the badge. I really thought I was going to use Double Slap. Even though it does do less damage, it has the option to hit somewhere between 2 to 5 times. And I really thought maybe that would be the solution. But in the end, that was another one of those things that I just sort of abandoned very quickly, very early on. I used the move, I think, twice in the entire fight, and really Pound was just sort of the saving grace. So probably could have done it at level 16, maybe even level 15, but for now, level 18, and yes, maybe a slightly slower start. But this is one of those things where, especially because it's just a normal type in the beginning, once things like TMs and leveling up happens, once the world sort of opens up for Clefairy, well, the world becomes your shelter. And that's what I'm talking about. Therefore, we make it to Mount Moon, and we're right at the end of it, fighting Team Rocket here. And we might be the highest level, besides maybe Mew, that we've ever been at this section. I probably should go back and double check that at some point, or maybe write down some of these kind of key factors. But a lot of that is just due to the fact that Clefairy levels up very fast. So that is also a huge benefit to this Pokemon, because if we were struggling with leveling, yeah, we would definitely be here a lot later. We would have had to grind a lot more in the beginning, but either way, at level 24, I feel pretty good about going up against the rivals team here. Actually, I guess now that I think about it, yeah, we've definitely been around this level before, because I've always been close to 10 levels, I guess, above these Pokemon. Obviously, when you only have one Pokemon on your team, you're getting all the experience. So as long as you're actually getting the experience, you know, you can make pretty good work of any team, at least in the beginning. Unless you're Weedle. Anyway, we've got this team here, and we have been sand attacked quite a number of times. It actually does get a little close, I think, just because of the fact that we missed quite a few times. But either way, we are able to defeat Blue's team this time, and we are able to then move on to the Nugget Bridge. The Nugget Bridge, of course, is something that I frequently don't show any of the pathway up to Bill, just because usually it's not a challenge. And this was not a challenge, but I wanted to showcase the fact that now that we have a move like Water Gun, we can go up against these hikers and just take them out instantly, a huge difference from Brock. Then moving on to Misty's gym, her trainers typically don't give any kind of issue unless you're perhaps someone like Sandshrew, right, like a ground type, a rock type, fire type. Either way, with Clefairy and Pound using any kind of move like that, or even Seismic Toss, which I'm going to talk about right now actually, we can make our way through this Pokemon gym pretty quickly. You see, I picked up Seismic Toss up near Bill's house. Seismic Toss is a move that does the same amount of damage as your Pokemon's level. And that is going to be great for Misty, because Misty has a pretty defensive team, and she uses things like Harden or X-Defend, but it doesn't matter what she uses, every time I hit, it hits for 29. And so therefore we can 2-hit the Staryu, 3-hit the Starmie, and get the badge. Easy peasy. Thank you. On to the next place, please. And speaking of easy peasy, this is one of my favorite sections of the entire game, which is SS Anne and the subsequent boss battle or gym battle with Lieutenant Surge. As always, I'm going to stop here and pick up Body Slam. As long as a Pokemon can learn it, I probably will. Again, sometimes that makes me a little bit of a one-trick pony, but usually it doesn't make it to the final learn set, so I kind of feel okay with having it if it's just sort of like a temporary fill, just to give me a little bit more power. With only one Pokemon, you can take all the things that you need, but I'm not going to use it immediately. And something that I also really love is that Clefairy makes its way through training against every trainer on this ship extremely quickly. It's been a minute since we've been able to do what we're about to do, which is the last time we healed, or at least used a Pokemon Center, is still up in Cerulean City. We have quite a few super potions, and because, look at that HP, 108, we are pretty tanky. I mean, the defense isn't necessarily huge, but it's pretty good, and with 108 HP, yeah, we're sitting pretty. And we can make our way through the rivals team very quickly at this level, and then go get cut and immediately make our way to the gym. Now, we don't have anything that's super effective against this guy, so Lieutenant Surge actually probably could pose a little bit of a problem. With a move like Mega Punch or Mega Kick, if he hits, it can do some pretty decent damage, but we just use Pound 3 times and we make our way through. Surge is trash, as always, and now we have Thunderbolt. Next, we make our way to the Pokemon Club, where we can go talk to the president, just listen to him yap for a hot second and get the bike voucher. Now, here is the great part. We just go over to Diglett's cave, we use Dig, and boom, we're back in Cerulean to heal up. Now, for the sake of time, we're cutting ahead pretty significantly. The rock tunnel is not hard at all for Clefairy, especially with Bubble Beam and Body Slam. We make our way through quickly. So now we're at Cerulean. We are exchanging a fresh water in order to give the move Ice Beam to Clefairy. This is one of those moments where I thought about how I probably actually could have made it through this next section with just Body Slam, because I have with other Pokemon, but I really felt like if I were to just go ahead and use Ice Beam against all of Erica's gym, we can make it through there very quickly. Then we buy a few more fresh waters for the road and for the guards at Saffron, and then we're going to make our way to Erica's gym. Now, using one of the PP ups that I have gotten the move to 12 PP, and we could, as always, go heal up at the Pokemon Center, but I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did earlier, because the last time that I healed was in Lavender Town. And I do have a few items to bring back some of the PP, but I don't want to use it too early because I'm also going to need some of this in the rocket hideout, which is another thing that I probably actually could have skipped the way that I did with Mew. But I do want to pick up the rare candy there and the other PP up. And so in my head, I was just kind of thinking, if I'm going to go in there anyway, I might as well just finish the area. I probably won't fight every single person there. I will definitely go there with minimum battles. But at the very least, I'll go in there, get those items, you know, knock around Giovanni once or twice extra in the game is always kind of fun too. Especially because there's some Pokemon that he just obviously whoops. So it's kind of nice when I can be like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Anyway, we're doing the same thing here in this gym, which is I've saved 3 Ice Beams because in my head, that's all I need in order to defeat Erica. And I am now going to just body slam through the rest of the gym because it's pretty easy to do so, especially at level 41. And with the boost to my attack, it's still not as good as my special, which you would think would be enough to take out Tangela. It is not though. We do get the freeze, so there's no damage there. Ice Beam still not enough for Weeping Bell, so it's a lot of 1-2 hits, but surely Gloom will be different. Nope. Okay, and there's Sleep Powder, and this is why a sleep move can be pretty great and pretty useful. We are getting our butts handed to us. Luckily, we wake up in time. With 9 HP left, we win. A little closer than I would have liked. That Sleep Powder was brutal. Next up, we make our way through the rocket hideout very quickly. I do, again, minimum battles. I fight only a couple of people, really just the people that I have to fight. The only thing that takes up a little extra time is at one point I totally forget to go to the lift key first. Had to backtrack. Happens, I guess, to the best of us when you're trying to speed through a little bit. And now here we are at 55 minutes already at Giovanni. We can 1 and then 2 for the first 2. Ice Beam is not enough for Persian, but honestly, I probably could have just body slammed to begin with. Either way, it's a lot like Erica. We do this. I have too many items. Great. Love to see that. Toss an item. We pick it up, and now we are out of here. Dig really is a pretty great move for maneuvers like that. After some quick inventory management, we then move on to the rival here in the Pokemon Tower. With a move like Ice Beam, honestly, Thunderbolt also would have been great against Fearow. Thunderbolt is great against the Shelder. We don't really have an answer for Vulpix, but that's okay. Body Slam is pretty great. We obviously then have Ice Beam for Sandshrew. Now, this is also one of the last times that Eevee will be easy, because once it learns moves like Double Kick, or once it evolves, it becomes a little bit less of a pushover. So that's going to be probably the last time that he is a very simple fight. I think he'll still be easier, but we'll have to change up our tactics just a little bit once we get to places like Silphco or to the final battle before the Indigo Plateau. Now, after crushing the rest of Pokemon Tower and of course Cycling Road, we are here at Koga's gym in Fuchsia City. Now, we really are not super well equipped against the trainers here. We don't have anything that's super effective against about half of them. Again, because there's a lot of psychic types here. And this is one of those moments where I kind of thought about how Psychic was probably a good move to learn at the very least against Koga, but I probably could have kept Body Slam for a little bit longer. I think I may have jumped the gun just a hot second on getting rid of a physical move, because I don't have any physical attacks here. And right now, even though my physical attack is weaker than my special, I could have used Defense Curl to kind of balance that out a little bit more. But it really, I guess, doesn't matter, because in the end, Thunderbolt honestly still makes pretty good work of all the psychic types here. And so therefore, we are able to fight our way through all of the different trainers here who, again, don't really match his gym. It's very weird. I guess the idea is they are the things that he is weakest against, so he trains against them. Don't really know the logic there. But now we are on to Koga. Koga is someone who, for the last 2 weeks, has proven to be very difficult. So it is very good and very fun to be back here and for the first time ever, be able to just really rinse through those first 3 Pokemon. Now, we do get poisoned, but it doesn't matter. because eventually we do hit after the double teams, and we have defeated Koga on the first try. Man, that feels good. Then after picking up Surf and Strength, I'm actually going to make my way over to the dojo. Not a place that I go to every time, but it is a place where when you've got a Pokemon that knows a move like Psychic, it's pretty great. It's good XP, and you can make it through them with one hit each time. And then, of course, at the end of this little path, you have quite the prize. You either get Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan. And even though I have other Pokemon that can learn the move Strength, I always kind of enjoy having, for the most part, every Pokemon, or rather every HM, is given to one Pokemon. I never use Flash, I don't need it. And also, technically, Charmander usually is what has Dig, but, you know, that's also not an HM. That's just a utility move. Either way, we make our way through this dojo, this kind of half gym, and we are now able to pick Hitmonchan. I try and split it 50-50. I think next time will obviously be Hitmonlee. I think I've made it pretty good about remembering which one I picked the last time. So then now that I have the Hitmonchan, I can go use Strength at the Warden's Place, get a rare candy, and then make my way to Silphco. And we're speeding up a little bit more through this footage just because we don't need to show it in excruciatingly slow detail, which is funny because it's already at 4 times speed. I accidentally take an extra battle here, but this is what is my best minimum battles for me. And that is basically just to say that there's 1 or 2 additional trainers that I fight that are not mandatory, but they are in the way of getting to a couple of the items or to the path that I want to have at my disposal, which is the pathway that allows you to heal without leaving and going to a Pokemon Center, because there is a little place where you can meet like basically the company nurse or whatever. There's like a nap room. She lets you heal up there. And this is where that is. There is a guy here who's got a pretty good team. They're actually pretty good for experience points. There's a couple other people here that have very good experience pools that I probably could have fought, but I didn't really think that Clefairy needed it. Level 52 already. We're at an hour and 9 minutes in. That feels pretty good time-wise. I've already thought about how I definitely want to come back to Clefairy. I'm not a speedrunner by any means necessary. I'm not trying to get the best possible time out there for any of these Pokemon. I am trying to get kind of my personal best, and immediately, even before my run was done, I had already found a few places in which I could have gotten a little bit better, gotten a little bit faster with how I made my way through that world. So I think that I could probably shave off maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes off of the final time that we'll see at the end here. I feel pretty confident in that, but it'll be a while before we come back to it, so I need to write that stuff down before I forget it. Either way, we make our way to the Rivals 5th team, and again, they're not that difficult, but this is where things start to get a little rough. He's got Double Kick, and I don't have anything that's really great against him. So luckily Psychic does get us through, but really Jolteon was the only Pokemon that posed a real threat to us on this run. Either way, at level 54, we do a very quick heal up and a cheeky little edit. We then go up against Team Rocket. As always, they are not very good, and I still use Thunderbolt the same way that Ash's Pikachu would have, so it just goes to show that if Clefairy had been the mascot, still could have used Thunderbolt to dispatch this team pretty efficiently. Feels pretty good. Now, we go to Giovanni. He has a Nidorino, which, boy, I wish I had had that last week instead. Then we have Persian. Rhyhorn goes down very quickly, and then, of course, so does Nidoqueen. We're very good against his team at this point. Psychic and Ice Beam both do solid damage against pretty much everyone on the team. Persian's the only Pokemon that we don't have anything that we're like super effective against. Now that we are done with Silphco, we can make our way up to the 6th gym badge and go up against Sabrina. Now this is going to be interesting because I don't have any physical moves. Again, this is one of those places where, did we need the Ice Beam? Did I need to have Psychic yet? Thunderbolt is still pretty good. The fact that Abra, considering it took me a hot second to defeat it, the fact that it couldn't hit me with Flash is very lucky for me. Now we're going up against her lineup here. Ice Beam is not really doing much, and Psychic has hit me pretty hard. The fact that she used Psywave twice really is her throwing that battle. That should have been a reset, but I will take it any day of the week. Now, as always, I'm not going to show Cinnabar Island. The visuals of this world or this level, this area, is very difficult on the eyes at 4 times speed. So we're just immediately cutting over to Blaine. And with Blaine, we are using some defense curl, mostly just so I can outspeed. But the biggest issue, of course, is that a lot of the moves that he's using are special. I don't have a special boost just yet, so my special is pretty far down, and yeah, looks like nothing I do is really going to be enough. Unfortunately, Rapid Dash is too much. Okay, so this is a thing where you'll see that I forgot to add a reset. I was actually not 100% positive that I had saved right before Blaine, so I did have to black out there. I should have one more reset at the end of this, so hopefully I'll remember to bring that up at the very end of the video, but if not, just keep that in the back of your mind. So we've had 2 resets here. I've decided that I needed to use a couple of the rare candies that I have. There's no real reason to hoard all of them until the end of the game. This is a very acceptable place to start using them. Sometimes I use them before Koga, sometimes I use them before Blaine, sometimes I use them before Giovanni. Those are the 3 places where I use, I would say, a minimum of 4 of the rare candies that I can come across. There's 12 total in the game. I typically only pick up 11. The 12th one is kind of a long path to get it, so it doesn't usually feel relevant. Okay, another reset. Great. So we should be at 4 resets here. I've leveled up and it still is not really enough. Again, the special is now above my attack, but it's not enough because we're not getting a boost anytime the other stats like my defense went down, so my attack went up, but my special won't go up until I defeat Blaine, which is just pure exactly what I need. Okay. And we could have made it through on that one, but Fire Blast hit. There was no way around it. Even with a decent special, moves like Fire Blast, yeah, those are going to hit pretty hard. And considering we had lost a fair amount of HP on that last one. Either way, it's really bad when we struggle to get through Ninetales. Because for me, Ninetales is typically the easiest of the 3 to get through. So when Ninetales is a struggle, that's bad. But here we are, 5 resets, we defeat Blaine, and we can move on. We have made our way to the 8th and final badge. We are here against Giovanni. We fought our way through the gym. We fought basically just the mandatory trainers and 2 extra ones just for a little extra XP. And now here we are going up against Dugtrio. Hits pretty hard, actually. And the fact that we miss a lot of our moves there, of course he also gets Dig Off. Okay, great. That's a reset. Typically, I don't love if Dugtrio is the first person that we are struggling up against. Using Dig instantly is a bad feeling, especially because he outspeeds. He could just spam that. But luckily, we get the Ice Beam off when he comes back up, and so we do get to hit him pretty hard. That got very scary very quickly. We got so lucky that the Persian missed on the Fury swipes. We really should not be alive, I'll be honest. We level up here, which does reset our badge boost, but it doesn't matter because we still outspeed Rhydon. And after only 1 reset, we defeat Giovanni. Maybe the Dugtrio beating us was just a fluke. Maybe that's all it was. Also, we definitely took way too many hits against Persian, but either way, even if it's a little sloppy, we won, and that's all that matters. So we can just save, heal up, and move on to the next battle. And that next battle is, of course, against our rival, the final time that we fight him before he becomes the champion. Therefore, our final obstacle in this game. So we go up against him, luckily with Clefairy being someone that can learn a pretty diverse moveset. We've got some answers for most of these Pokemon. So therefore, we can move through his team pretty quickly. Kadabra, I think, is going to, at least for this run, probably be the main difficulty. Maybe the Ninetales. Jolteon, as long as I can 2-hit him with something like Ice Beam, we should be fine. But he's got a very diverse team, and he frequently is an issue, especially in solo challenges. And I just really think that they really built a strong champion in this game. And I am now all the way through the Victory Road. I am on my way to Indigo Plateau here. As always, I'm going to drop off all my Pokemon, then heal up, which I did not do before the Victory Road, which meant that I had like no PP left on anything or HP. So there you go. Then we get some full restores for after each battle. We save the game, and then it's time to go in against Lorelei. I overshoot it a little bit. That's fine. Backtrack, and we go up against her. Luckily, this is one of those moments, again, where I feel like we've got a pretty strong set against a team like this. We use Defense Curl to set up. This is one of the few times in the game where I'm going to do some setups. And this is one of those moments where I'll finally explain what that is. We haven't really seen it being used much, so this is the time. Basically, in this generation, there was this great little glitch in the game where every time you have a badge that gets a boost, right, adding a percentage of your stats to the next one, you could then use a move that anything that changes one of those stats then re-rolls that boost and adds it on to that stat again. So you'll see that every time I use Defense Curl, not only does my defense go up, but my attack, my speed, my special, they all go up as well. So it is a pretty fantastic little glitch to utilize in moments like this. It means that I can just do 3 setups against Bruno's team, and Bruno's team also goes down just as quickly as Lorelei's team does. Therefore, we get to move on to the usual problem child of Agatha. Now, I will say another key factor here is I did not level up before this fight. That is a mistake, because anytime you use a badge boost, anytime you level up, because your stats, your natural stats change, everything gets reset. So if I wanted to do some defense curls here, I'm about to set myself up in a bad way because I'm going to boost them and then immediately lose them. And in fact, it happens as I mention it. Perfect timing. Also, getting hit with things like hypnosis and with confuse ray is very brutal. We can't really hit her team because we are getting outsped at every turn. So that is going to be a reset, and it is going to be a time where we need to use at least one rare candy. I'm going to use a couple of them because there's no real reason to hold on to them until the final 2. This is pretty much the point to use them. Hold on just to 1 for each one, just to be sure that you're not resetting in the middle of a battle. But as you can see, it doesn't do a lot of difference. We're still being outsped by more than half the team. At this point, it takes 2 defense curls to get us to a point where we can outspeed and hopefully outgun her team. Our specialist is doing pretty good. We're going to keep doing some defense curls, although getting confused is a big bummer. Luckily, it does not last long. We can then Thunderbolt against Golbat. Then we can use Psychic against Haunter. Finally, a 1-hit against a Pokemon that we struggle against. We can Psychic again. 1-hit the final Gengar. Okay, the lesson was learned and we moved on very quickly and very well. Very efficient. Feels very good. After the last couple of weeks of how much we struggled against her, boy, is this refreshing. I also use the word very way too many times there, but what I also use is one of the final 2 rare candies, just to make sure that if I do any kind of setups, that they don't get reset in the middle of this fight for any reason. I then am able to Thunderbolt rather, Gyarados, Ice Beam for the first Dragonair, who can paralyze us, so we don't want to do any setup against him. Then we do a little bit of defense curls here. I probably don't need to do too many. 4 is enough to then outspeed Aerodactyl. That's a key factor. We then Ice Beam him as well, and then the final Dragonite. Ice Beam truly is a beautiful move. I love that so much. Now we're going to rare candy one last time just to make sure that we don't reset at all against the champion. Then we do a little save, and it is time to move on to said champion. We feel pretty good in this lineup. Again, most of the Pokemon we can outrank. Luckily, Sandslash can't really do much to Clefairy, so this is one of those moments where he's mostly going to go for moves like Fury Swipes, which is interesting instead of Slash. I kind of feel like that would be way more effective. I don't really know why he's going for that. Maybe it's just because it knows that it can hit more than one time. Either way, we can defense curl 6 times, really set ourselves up well, and then move on to Alakazam, which still needs to 2-hit on Thunderbolt. Pretty crazy. Ice Beam is great against Exeggutor, though. Thunderbolt, obviously, great against Cloyster. Thunderbolt should still do pretty well against Ninetales, and it does. 2 hits, and then we can use, I have to decide which one I'm going to go for, and I go for Ice Beam. Psychic proved to be difficult last time, but 2 Ice Beams, and yeah, that's a first attempt. That is 1 hour, 33 minutes, 59 seconds, 1 second shy of 134, and that is currently the best time on the channel. I mean, I'm not including Mew, but, you know, that was different circumstances, and also, Mew is always going to be the better, right? Either way, feels very good to defeat this game in such an efficient way. We do have 1 extra reset from Blaine that we obviously did not calculate in, so 7 resets, an hour 34. That's a very respectable time, and I do believe that I could probably get that down to, let's say, 125. I feel confident that I could get this game done with Clefairy 125, so I will have to come back and make an attempt at that. Either way, really liked Clefairy. This was a fun run. I really enjoyed it, and it's been very refreshing after a couple very frustrating weeks of not so great Pokemon. Either way, please let me know how you felt about this one. And of course, if you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the content, please consider giving us a like, a subscribe, a comment even. Any kind of interaction that you give to smaller creators always helps us out tremendously. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week for another solo challenge in Pokemon Yellow.